We're now less than a week away from the NHL Draft Lottery, so today we're going to do another NHL Draft Lottery simulation to determine who might get the #1 overall pick in the 2022 NHL Draft, and then we're going to complete a mock draft for the first 16 selections for the teams we know the order of, and that's coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, today we're doing another NHL Draft Lottery simulation and mock draft. We're not all that far away now from the actual Draft Lottery, where we'll know who actually wins, but it's always fun to do a simulation and play around here with Tankathon.com just to see how things might turn out. We've done this a number of times, usually every couple of weeks or so, once a month or every 2 to 3 weeks, and we've had numerous different outcomes. We've seen the Montreal Canadiens win the draw a couple of times to get first overall. We've seen it go to the Islanders, Vancouver, a few other teams as well. So it'll be interesting to see how this one turns out. So we're going to hop onto the computer, go into Tankathon.com. We're going to run a simulation to see who wins the first overall picks. We've also got some more updated NHL prospect rankings from NHL Central Scouting to consider as well when determining who might go on what selection. So then after we know that, we'll complete the draft here for the first 16 spots for the teams that are out of the playoffs. Okay, so as you can see, we're now on the Tankathon.com website. So here's the main spot here where it shows you right now the order of the teams based on how they finished in the regular season standing. So just a quick review here. The Montreal Canadiens have the best odds at winning the draft lottery, along with Arizona at second, Seattle in third, Philadelphia in fourth. The Devils are the fifth best odds. The Jackets, by way of the pick from Chicago, is number 6. Ottawa at 7, Detroit at 8, Buffalo at 9, Anaheim at 10, San Jose at 11, Columbus with their own pick at 12, the Islanders at 13, the Jets at 14, the Canucks at 15, and the 16th pick will be the Sabres by way of the pick they got from Vegas and the Jack Eichel trade. So, of course, keep in mind here as well, you can only move up a maximum of 10 spots. So teams like Columbus with their pick at number 12, the Islanders, Jets, Canucks, and the other Sabres pick by way of Vegas will not be eligible for first overall. They can move up drastically, though. So if that happens, obviously the teams that are, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., are not going to be moving down any. So really, if you think about the fact that the Habs have the best odds of winning this at 18.5%, you get a factor in here as well that they also have odds for these teams not getting it. So it kind of goes up more than that in a sense as well. So let's now take a look here at a simulation and we'll see where this goes. So, of course, as I mentioned, so top 2 picks are in the lottery, maximum 10 spots. So let's see what happens when we simulate the draft lottery. There we have it. The Arizona Coyotes win the first overall selection. Certainly something that they will desperately need here. And of course, the Buffalo Sabres were also pretty fortunate, moving up 7 spots to take the number 2 overall pick, which is certainly not great for the Montreal Canadiens, the Seattle Kraken, etc. here. So, of course, Montreal gets bumped down 2 spots. The Kraken, Flyers, Devils, Jackets, Sens, and Red Wings all get moved down 1 pick. So there you have it. So those are your first 16 order selections. And now we're going to jump into the actual draft, and I'll tell you who I feel these teams would select. First overall, we have the Arizona Coyotes, and there's still no change here. Shane Wright will be the first overall selection. I don't think it's going to matter who ends up with the first overall pick. Wright did finish the season a lot stronger than he started. Of course, the playoffs are still going on in the OHL as well, but he finished the regular season with 94 points in 63 games while picking up 22 penalty minutes. So certainly a pretty strong finish. Obviously, we'll see what they can do in the playoffs as well. But Wright has had nothing but success in the past. A good, solid two-way center with a lot of offensive upside. I'm not sure that even Wright will go immediately to the NHL. It might not be a terrible idea for him to do another year of junior, given all the time they lost and games canceled due to COVID. Probably would be a great benefit for him to have another year of development before making the jump to the NHL. But we'll see how the Coyotes or whoever ends up with the pick feels about that after the draft. Selecting second overall, we have the Buffalo Sabres, and I have them taking another top center, U.S.-born player Logan Cooley, who could be the first player chosen to this part of the draft from the Pittsburgh area. Of course, Logan Cooley was a part of Sidney Crosby's program when he was a little kid, so certainly having the Penguins be so successful and having that program in that area certainly played a big role in his early development here at a young age. But he's a number 2 ranked skater in North America. He topped the U.S. hockey team's U18 team with 1.47 points per game. He was the youngest player named to Team USA in the World Junior Championships as well, and has nothing but a tremendous offensively gifted upside here. Would be a huge asset and pickup for Buffalo to add to their center core down the middle. Selecting 3rd overall, we have the Montreal Canadiens, and I have them selecting JURAJ SLAFKOVSKY. Of course, SLAFKOVSKY would be the next best player available here, in my opinion. I think the Habs would probably prefer to get one of the top 2 centers, but if they end up slipping down to 3rd in the draft, then this was not really all that bad of an option here. SLAFKOVSKY was named MVP of the 22 Olympic Games after leading the tournament in goals and tying for points with 7 goals in 7 games played. Of course, he's helping Slovakia win their country's first ever Olympic medal in hockey, which is pretty solid. He spent the majority of the 21-22 season in the Finnish Elite League, putting up 10 points in 31 games, but for somebody his age, which is actually pretty solid results. Selecting at number 4, we have the Seattle Kraken in their 2nd draft, selecting top center from the Winnipeg Ice, Matthew Savoie. Now, Savoie is a player at one point, was kind of a few years ago at least, was thought to maybe challenge for 1st overall. He's put up 90 points this year in 65 games played, had a real solid season. He is a little bit on the smaller side, 5'9", 175, but overall I don't see his size really being a deterrent. Extremely gifted offensive playmaking center. Savoie, I think, along with Matty Beniers, would make a tremendous 1-2 punch down the middle for the Kraken for many years to come. The Kraken certainly need to add a top offensive player in this draft. Now, of course, they could use a solid defenseman as well, but I think the upside in Savoie would be too much to pass up picking where they are. Picking in the number 5 spot, we have the Philadelphia Flyers, and I have them taking the top D-man in the draft from Slovakia, Simon Nemec. Now, to me, the Flyers could go in a variety of directions depending on where this pick ends up, but if it goes like it does in this simulation where they're at number 5 and a lot of those top 4 offensive players are gone, they're going to have a tough choice here. They can either get a really good D or another really good winger. I think based on where their defense is at, I think they're going to go for a player like Nemec, who has good size at 6 feet, 190 pounds. He's put up 26 points in 39 games this year. Just a real solid defenseman on both ends of the ice, which I think personally he could make the jump to the NHL quicker than a lot of these players in this draft and would be a good choice for Philly. Number 6, we have the New Jersey Devils selecting, and I have them selecting one of the top European players from Finland, JOAKIM. Now, Kemell's the number 2 ranked international skater. He led all rookies in the Finnish Elite League with 15 goals over 39 games played. Had a real solid showing at the U18 World Championships, where he held his team in many games with scoring lots of big goals in a variety of ways, putting up 6 goals, 2 assists for 8 points in 5 games. He led JYP's junior team in goals and points as well in 2021, putting up 36 points in 38 games. He's a real gifted winger who can score in a variety of ways, and at this point where New Jersey's at, they have some good solid centers. They picked up some better defensemen here recently between free agency and what they have coming, and I think it makes sense to add a top scoring winger to go along to complement that. In the number 7 spot, we have the Columbus Blue Jackets by way of the pick from Chicago in the Seth Jones trade, and I have them taking David JIRICEK. David JIRICEK from the Czech Republic, 6'3", 190 pounds, right shot defenseman. Is going to be tough for them to pass up if he's still available in this selection. He put up 11 points in 29 games played, 49 penalty minutes, so had a real good start to his World Junior Championship before he ultimately dealt with a knee injury, and then, fortunately, I guess, in a way, the tournament ended up not being completed and will be rescheduled for the summertime here, so hopefully he'll have an opportunity to redeem himself for his country. But JIRICEK, to me, is just a real mature defenseman, real solid at both ends of the ice, and I think he could be solid top 4 potential with a fairly early impact on the game here. I can see him getting to the NHL again, like I said about Nemec, probably a little faster than some of these forwards, in my opinion. Next up at number 8, we have the Ottawa Senators, and I have them selecting U.S.-born player Cutter Gauthier. Now, I'm not entirely convinced that he would be the best selection for them in this particular spot, but he just feels like a Senators pick based on how we've seen them draft here recently. He's jumped up after the U18 tournament. He's now the number 3 ranked skater in North America ranked second on USA Hockey's National Team Development Program U18 team with 34 goals. He helped Team USA earn a silver medal at the 2022 Under-18 World Championships as well, putting up 9 points in 6 games. Of course, he also is the son of a former pro hockey player, Sean Gauthier, who was a goalie, a 9th-round pick of the Jets way back in '91. His father played in a variety of leagues, a journeyman through the NHL, AHL, and European leagues as well. And he is going to be playing college hockey. He'll be going to Boston College next season, so he'll be at least 1 or 2 years away before making the jump. But given the depth of the Sens prospect pool, it makes sense they could wait. It just kind of reminds me a little bit of their pick last year with Tyler Boucher. Not that necessarily that was the greatest pick either. I think Gauthier probably looks more like a real hardworking, good-sized third-line wingers, but he could end up being, in my opinion. But it just feels like a Senators pick based on how they drafted it recently. Next up in the number 9 spot, we have the Detroit Red Wings, and I have them taking a big center iceman from the WHL, CONOR GEEKIE. Now, GEEKIE to me is likely still going to be available here at this spot in the draft. It looks quite possible. Put up 70 points in 63 games. He's a real good-sized kid, 6'3", 196. So he's only going to continue to get a little bit bigger too. He's not done growing, not done filling out. So, you know, he's going to be probably a little bit over 200 pounds. He might hit 6'4", who knows. So the size, the strength, and everything there, he's got the body of an NHL player now. Just a matter of honing in and refining his skills. Certainly would be beneficial for him to do a little bit more time in junior. Looking at the Red Wings and where their prospect depth is at, to get a big center like GEEKIE at this point, to me, makes a ton of sense. And I think would be hard for Yzerman to pass up. Although there are some other prospects here that I can see being very interesting to Steve Yzerman as well. And they do sometimes go off the board here, so we'll see if I'm right on this. But to me, if he's available where they're selecting, I think he'd be a great choice. In the number 10 spot, we have the Anaheim Ducks, and I have them taking the WHL defenseman Kevin Korchinski of the Seattle Thunderbirds. Now, Korchinski is another player that's seen his stock rise here a bit going into the end of the season, into their junior playoffs, and of course with the last dropping here, the final rankings from Central Scouting. Good-sized defenseman, 6'2", 185. He's a very smooth skating D-man with a good offensive upside. Like many young defensemen, his D game in the D zone is a bit of a work in progress, but he has all the tools that it looks like he'll be a really solid, successful defenseman longer term. Really high probability he makes it to the NHL and becomes likely a top 4 defenseman. So he certainly has all the tools to be successful at both ends of the ice. He put up 65 points in 67 games, and to me, there's potential to build on that. He's only going to get better as he likely does another year of junior. Next up at the number 11 spot, the San Jose Sharks are selecting, and I have them taking U.S.-born forward Isaac Howard. Now, Isaac Howard, to me, is a gifted offensive winger, has great puck skills. Not overly huge, but big enough to get by in the NHL. Size doesn't matter so much anymore, especially depending on your skill level, but he's not super tiny. He's 5'10", 175. He's a left shot. Certainly could use a little bit more strength, I think, though, just to make sure that the transition to pro hockey is more successful. But I know many of the scouts are giving this guy a high probability of making it to the NHL and being successful. He has played a lot this past year between the U.S. national team program for the U18 team, putting up 82 points in 60 games, so some solid numbers there. And the United States national team junior program in the USHL, putting up 37 points in 27 games to boot. Had 11 points in 6 games in the U18 tournament too. So a solid year for Howard. Committed to the University of Minnesota Duluth next season, so he'll have an opportunity to play college hockey, continue developing, hopefully get stronger before he makes the jump to the Sharks lineup. Selecting next at number 12, we once again have the Columbus Blue Jackets, and I have them taking another American-born forward, Frank Nazar. Now, in the latest update here from NHL Central Scouting rankings, Nazar is dropped down. I'm not sure why. He's played well, but they have him ranked a little bit lower than many scouting services previously, but he's 5'10", 174, real high probability of making it to the NHL and being successful. Right now, he's a right shot center. I can see him maybe being a winger at the NHL, not a guarantee, but either way, he's a really versatile forward who can play in a variety of spots. He's got great speed, lots of offensive skill, terrific release, great goal scorer off the rush especially. Could stand to add some extra strength like a lot of these younger players as well to be successful. Put up 70 points for the USDP program, the U18 program that was. USHL, he put up 35 points in 24 games. 9 points in 6 games at the U18 tournament, and now he's heading to college hockey next year to play for the Wolverines at the University of Michigan. So overall, real solid season for Nazar. Going to have a real good opportunity to continue developing next year and would be a tremendous pickup for Columbus. Selecting in the 13th spot, we have the New York Islanders, and I have them taking a Russian-born defenseman, Pavel MINTYUKOV. Now, MINTYUKOV is Russian-born, but playing in the Ontario Hockey League this year for Saginaw. He's got good size, 6'1", 192, left shot, high probability, I feel, of making it to the NHL. Really gifted offensive-minded blue liner. Obviously, like I said, with many of these young D, they do need to work on their own play in their own zone, like defensively speaking. That seems to be, a big adjustment for many of these young players as they continue to adjust and get stronger. But certainly somebody who has all the capabilities here, potential to maybe be a power play quarterback and be a solid top 4. Maybe, I'm not sure if we'll go as far as saying top pair. That might be a bit of a stretch, but he's really gained a lot of attention here as the end of the season approaches. He put up 62 points, including 17 goals in 67 games this year for Saginaw in the OHL, which is some pretty solid numbers. As a defenseman, obviously, like I said, being left shot as well, and the fact that he just knows when to jump into the play. His skating is real solid. Offensive instincts and power play, definitely a major strength for him. Given where the Islanders are at, they could really use another solid left shot defenseman with a lot of offensive upside who can move the puck and be mobile. To me, he fits exactly what they need. They might have to wait a little bit to get him there, but to me, he'd be a real solid pickup for the Islanders. Next up at the 14th spot, we have the Winnipeg Jets, and I have them taking another American-born forward, Jimmy Snuggerud, another player who certainly comes from a great hockey bloodline, being a second-generation NHL player, assuming he makes it there, and many feel he will. Had a real solid season for the U.S. National Team Development Program, putting up 63 points, 24 goals in 59 games. A guy who can certainly be looked upon as being a pretty solid goal scorer. He should be one of the better goal scorers in this draft. At least it looks that way at this point in his young career. Where Winnipeg is at with everything in this point in the draft, to me, they have to take one of the best players available. And to me, that just makes the most sense for Jimmy Snuggerud. Obviously, there's lots of other options here that they could go with. But to me, Snuggerud is a good, solid pickup. He is going to be playing U.S. college hockey next year from the University of Minnesota, so it gives the Jets some time to allow him to get stronger and continue developing. Next up at number 15, we have the Vancouver Canucks, and I have them going to a place they're quite familiar with when it comes to drafting and drafting successfully, and that's the Sweden to get Jonathan Lekkerimäki. He's a real solid-looking prospect, a pure goal scorer who has a deadly shot in a variety of ways that he can get the puck in the net. Has the real solid potential to produce in a top 6 role. He's a right shot, 5'11", 172. I think high likelihood that he has not only makes it to the NHL, but does have some success. Where the Canucks are at as a team, to me, makes a lot of sense that in a couple of years' time, he'd be ready to step in and join this young group of players in Vancouver. I mean, they have a good young core group there now. There's bound to be some changes under the new regime, and Lekkerimäki, to me, just could be a good replacement player in a few years' time who could produce a lot of goals for them. At number 16, we have the Buffalo Sabres with their second pick in this first round, and I have them selecting Brad Lambert. Of course, is of Finnish descent, but theoretically is Finnish and Canadian joint dual citizenships here, being that he has a Canadian father and a Finnish mother. Now, Lambert's a little bit more of a, I wouldn't call him a controversial pick, but a pick that there seems to be a divided opinion on out there. His season this year wasn't the greatest. He's bounced around to a couple of different teams and has had a harder time finding his game, putting up 10 points in 49 games, playing in Finland, finishing with the Pelicans this year. He's got good size, 6 feet, 175, almost just shy of 6'1". But to me, he's a good play driver. Watching him play at the World Junior Championships was probably, I know it was limited, but his best hockey this season. And to me, with the Sabres having multiple first-round picks, have the opportunity here to take a player like Lambert, who might be a little bit of a project, might have to be patient with him. But I think with the right coaching, there's lots to like there that he can really bring up that play. And even if he only ends up being a middle 6 player, at this point in the draft, you don't mind so much, given that you have multiple first-round picks. So that is the simulation and my picks for the first 16 spots. Of course, as always, want to know what your thoughts are. Who do you feel are the best players available for these teams that we'll be picking, at least in this particular order? We may do this one more time before the actual lottery takes place on May the 10th. So let me know your thoughts, and we'll discuss further down in the comments. If you're new to this channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the latest news and all the NHL Draft Lottery prospects, news, rumors, etc. from all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time.